you've been thinking about keeping chickens, but maybe you live in a colder area like I do, and you're not sure what to do about it in the winter, I got a few tips and tricks for you. So let's get to it. You're new to keeping any kind of livestock. You're probably worried about what to do in the cold. Chickens are very small and they're birds, so a lot of people think that they're kind of fragile. They're not really going to be able to weather winter conditions very well. This couldn't be any further from the truth. Chickens are extremely hardy. But there's things that you can do to help them get through the winter. First of all, it starts with your breed selection. Birds that have small combs that stick tight to their heads are going to do better in winter weather because they have less surface area to get frostbite. Things like pea combs, like I have on my Easter eggers there, things with a walnut comb, maybe some smaller buttercup combs, things that are very small. You're not going to get that classic giant frill that kind of flops over. Those kind of birds with the single combs that do get very big can still weather winter pretty well. But you might see some frostbite happening and they'll lose little tips off it, which kind of sucks for the bird, but it doesn't do any lasting damage that's going to harm their overall longevity and health of the bird. Chickens, for the most part, actually don't really mind the cold. I've seen these guys out here scratching around at negative temperatures, as long as they have someplace dry to get to. That's probably the #1 cause of most sick birds in the winter, is if they have damp conditions. And keeping birds dry starts with this, a nice sturdy coop. Now, it doesn't have to be built like Fort Knox, like mine is here. I just happened to get this one because it was on sale at the time that I had a tax return and I didn't have a lot of time to build my own. But there's a lot of do-it-yourself coops out there that will work just fine. What they need most of all is security from predators, security from drafts or breezes, and a roof over it to keep the wind and rain off. And in our case, snow. Huge consideration for keeping your birds healthy is also ventilation. You don't want to have it really drafty if you live in cold places, but you still want to have some ventilation in your coop. Don't make or buy a coop that's airtight. Chickens poop a lot, and that poop contains moisture. And while the birds are sleeping and pooping on their perches overnight, that moisture has to escape, or it'll build up and it can cause sickness to get into your birds. The other way I control moisture in my flock is by using the deep bedding method. It's also called a deep litter method. Some people, this works for them really well, and other people find it a hassle. One of the really big tricks to making sure deep litter method works is you keep adding carbon. That's what we're going to do today with this stuff right here. This is pine shavings. They're very small chips. A lot smaller actually than the stuff I already have in the coop. But the larger chips I have in there have been in there a while and they've started breaking down. And now I can start adding smaller particulate matter to it. The way this method works is by basically turning your chicken's poop into a giant compost pile. Chicken poop contains a lot of nitrogen. If you've ever thrown fresh chicken manure on your vegetable crop and gotten nitrogen burn, you'll know that. It's a wonderful fertilizer once it's been composted, but it needs time to break down and neutralize some of the nitrogen. One way to speed that process up is by adding carbon. Carbon is anything that's dry, organic matter. Leaves, pine needles, straw, wood chips, wood shavings, anything like that will do, but you need to have enough of it to counteract the nitrogen and the moisture that's in the chicken's poop. If you manage it correctly, there's a lot of benefits to deep litter. It not only controls the moisture and the smell, but it also generates heat because there's active composting going on. I just took my glove off and I can actually feel a little bit of heat rising off of my deep litter. It doesn't smell right now, but it is starting to get a faint kind of ammonia whiff in there, which I know means I need to start adding more carbon to make sure the composting process continues. So that's what we're going to do right now. Oh, that's better. Instead of just layering it on top, I'm now going to give it a nice mix and turn it in. Your next concern for keeping chickens healthy through the winter is going to be making sure they get adequate feed and water. Adam's talking. You got something to say? Oh yeah, tell me about it, Adam. Talk to me about it. Talk to me about it. No? You done? I'm glad we could have this conversation, buddy. Yep, one more? Okay. In the winter, chickens stop laying eggs and they start eating more. It seems kind of counterintuitive until you realize that they're using that fuel to generate more body heat. Chickens don't shiver, they just kind of fluff up their feathers and huddle together. Make sure they're generating enough heat, you need to make sure they're getting enough food. And to make sure they're able to digest their food properly, you need to make sure they're getting enough hydration. Fresh water is a huge issue in places that get really cold, like where I live. However you get your chickens food and water to them, do what works for you. Out here, we're right next to the house in the backyard, so I can just carry the water out to my coop every day before I go to work. If you're someplace where your barn or your coop is farther away from your house, you might not have that luxury. Now, I don't really like electric heated waterers. I don't like the combination of electricity and water. I don't like having the potential for a fire hazard in my infrastructure. But if you have your infrastructure set up so that you can do it safely, do it. Another option is frost-free hydrants. They are designed to drain excess water out once you turn them off and allows it so the pipes won't freeze over winter. You have fresh water on hand. Your last concern is dust bathing. Chickens need to be able to roll in dirt in order to keep their feathers in pristine condition and keep down parasites. Back here in the coop, we have this spot that stays pretty much dry all year round. It's nice, clean dirt the chickens love to roll in the spring. You'll see them absolutely tearing that spot up like crazy and dirt bathing in it. If you don't have dirt floor in your coop or someplace they can go to dig it up and roll around in, you'll want to provide them a pan or a litter box filled with dirt. There's lots of recipes you can find online, on YouTube, on blogs, on Pinterest for how to create a chicken dust bath. That's really all you need to look for. That's really it. Food, water, a dry and draft-free shelter. They can get through some pretty extreme weather conditions. Temperatures in the negatives. Absolutely horrible snow, rain, wet, as long as they have some place where they can go to dry off, thermoregulate, and socialize. There'll be some happy chickens. And that is it for this video update. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll like this video. Subscribe to our channel for updates and keep us posted. Be sure to leave a comment below. We love hearing from you guys. I love to have conversations, and you can keep the conversation going by joining us on Discord. You can also help support us on Patreon. You can find links to all of these in the description box below. I will also be leaving links in the description to charities that are helping with the wildfire fighting effort in Australia. They're having a hard time right now. Their wildlife and natural habitats have been devastated due to the fires that are burning out of control, thanks in part at least somewhat to climate change and human impact. We're all in this together, and I hope you will follow our journey and be part of our family.